Adrian Cole returned after many years away, carrying nothing but an old military backpack and the weight of his past. He went to his late wife Anna's old house, the place where his daughter Emily now lived with her stepmother. When he arrived, the house felt abandoned, dark, damp, and covered in dust, as if joy had long vanished from its walls. Vanessa, the woman who had been taking care of Emily, was surprised to see him back. Her smile was forced, her words polite, but her eyes betrayed something cold and calculating. Adrian searched for his daughter and found Emily in the corner of the hallway, sweeping the floor with a broom far too big for her small frame. She was thin, pale, dressed in worn-out clothes. Red, strange patches marked her skin, not the marks of insects or allergies. Vanessa brushed it off as nothing, but Adrian didn't believe her. That night, Emily whispered to him, "Daddy, I'm scared of the voices under my pillow. They keep whispering to me." Her eyes were wide with fear. Adrian held her close, but unease gnawed at his heart. At midnight, he heard soft, deliberate footsteps outside Emily's room. Then came muffled sobs, like nightmares leaking into reality. Adrian rushed in to find Emily thrashing in her sleep, drenched in sweat and tears. She clung to him, trembling, desperate for safety. On the sheets, Adrian noticed stains, strange, dark marks he couldn't explain. From that moment, he knew something was terribly wrong. The house, the stepmother, the whispers, the strange red marks, it all felt connected to a darker truth, and Adrian was determined to uncover it, no matter the cost. Adrian didn't sleep that night. He sat in the living room as the old floorboards creaked beneath every small shift of his weight, his soldier's instincts telling him this was more than neglect or bad parenting. Something darker lived in that house, hidden and festering in the shadows. At dawn, Vanessa was already in the kitchen, stirring a pot of thin porridge. She barely looked up when he entered and spoke in a flat, dismissive tone that warned him not to fill Emily's head with nonsense. "She's imaginative, fragile. If you scare her more, she'll break." Adrian said nothing, only watched Emily at the table. The red patches on her arms were not fading, but spreading, crawling further across her pale skin. When Vanessa left for the market, Adrian began to search the house, moving silently through the upstairs hall until he reached the attic door. It was locked, but his knife made short work of it, and inside the air was thick with chemicals and rot under a single flickering bulb. Shelves lined with jars revealed grotesque red insects, swollen and writhing, their bodies glowing like drops of blood, and syringes lay beside them already filled with the same crimson liquid. Adrian's chest tightened. This was no infestation, it was an experiment, and Emily was at the center of it. A floorboard groaned behind him and he spun, knife raised. It wasn't Vanessa who stepped from the shadows, but a stranger. Tall, lean, leather jacket, sharp-eyed, who raised her hands in a cautious gesture and introduced herself as Lydia, warning him that his daughter was part of something larger, something called Project Hallow. Adrian's grip on the knife hardened as he asked about Vanessa. Lydia's face darkened as she revealed Vanessa had been working with Dr. Leonard Voss, the architect of the horror, and that Emily was not merely sick but being harvested. The revelation struck Adrian like a blow. He looked back at the glowing jars and remembered Emily's frightened whispers. And though he had faced war zones and enemies with guns and bombs, this was different. This was war inside his own home, with an enemy already rooted in his child's blood. And in that moment, he knew with absolute clarity that he would burn Project Hallow to the ground. Adrian didn't waste time. He demanded answers from Lydia, but she gave him only fragments. Project Hallow, she said, was a secret experiment in biological enhancement. Children were the perfect hosts, their bodies adaptable in ways adults weren't. Emily's blood carried something rare, something the scientists wanted to cultivate. When Vanessa returned home, Adrian confronted her. For the first time, her mask cracked. She didn't deny it. Instead, her words came cold and sharp. "You don't understand. Without Emily, the research fails. Do you think I wanted this? No. But if we don't comply, Voss will take her anyway. At least here, I can watch over her." Adrian's hand curled into a fist. He could have struck her, but Emily's small voice echoed from upstairs, fragile as glass. He forced himself to step back. Violence wouldn't save his daughter. That night, Adrian secretly followed Vanessa. She left the house just before midnight, carrying a box. He trailed her through Havenbrook's empty streets until she slipped into an abandoned clinic at the edge of town. Inside, he saw what she had been hiding. Rows of children lying on beds, pale and trembling, with IVs dripping glowing red fluid into their veins. The same insects he'd seen in the attic crawled in glass containers, feeding tubes snaking into their bodies. And at the center of it all stood Dr. Leonard Voss. Tall, thin, with a skull-like face and glasses that glinted under the cold fluorescent light. His voice was clinical, detached as he instructed assistants to increase the dosage on subject 12. Adrian clenched his teeth. He knew a prison when he saw one, but this wasn't a prison of walls. This was a prison of science. Adrian returned home with a plan. He contacted Lydia, who revealed she once worked inside Project Hallow before fleeing. Together, they gathered evidence, photographs of the attic jars, samples of the insects, and Emily's medical records Vanessa had hidden. But Voss was already moving. The next evening, Adrian came home to find Emily missing. Vanessa was gone too. A note lay on the kitchen table, written in shaky handwriting. "She belongs to us now. If you want her back, come to the clinic, alone." Adrian's training roared back to life. He armed himself with the tools he still had, his old service pistol, a knife, and the instincts of a soldier who had nothing left to lose. At the clinic, he descended into the basement. The smell of chemicals burned his lungs. In the main chamber, Emily lay strapped to a gurney, tubes running into her arms. Her eyes fluttered open, weak, but she whispered, "Daddy." Voss stood beside her, syringe in hand. "She's special," the doctor murmured. "Her blood reacts in ways no other child's does. With her, humanity can evolve." Adrian stepped forward, gun raised. "You're not going to touch her again." The room erupted in chaos. Guards rushing, glass shattering, children crying. Adrian fought with brutal precision, every movement honed from years on the battlefield. He shot, struck, and cut his way through until only Voss remained, cornered against the lab wall. "You can't stop this," Voss hissed, even as Adrian pressed the barrel to his forehead. "Even if you kill me, there are others. Emily is the key. She will never be safe." Adrian pulled the trigger. The raid drew the attention of federal investigators. Project Hallow was exposed. Dozens of children were rescued, but the files Adrian recovered showed branches of the project spread far beyond Havenbrook. Vanessa was arrested for her role in delivering Emily to Voss. Lydia disappeared into the shadows, leaving only a message: "This fight isn't over." Weeks later, Adrian and Emily moved to a safe house near the coast. Emily's red marks began to fade. She smiled again, played again, and laughed again. But at night, she sometimes woke trembling, whispering, "They're still calling me Dad. I can hear them." Adrian would hold her close, whispering back, "They'll never take you again. Not long." And though the ocean breeze carried peace, Adrian was dead. Project Hallow hadn't truly ended. It had only gone deeper underground.